It's nearly time for the next chapter in the Doctor Who universe, The War Between the Land and the Sea, a brand new spin-off. The first spin-off in nearly a decade, and the only spin-off now of the Disney era as well, the final instalments of Disney Doctor Who. Before the show gets going, I thought I'd just take a moment to look at everything we know about it so far, to lay down some predictions and expectations about what the series is going to be like, and just generally look at the story so far, everything that's kind of got us to this point, from the humble origins of this show about 4 years ago. So before he even returned to the show in 2021, Russell T Davies had been saying in various interviews that he thought it was time that we had some more Doctor Who spin-offs, and that the show kind of scaled up a bit to match the likes of something like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Let's have the main show, but also all these spin-offs around it. You know, it's been going for 60 years. We have all these characters, all these monsters and aliens who could very easily have their own shows. Why is the show not being more ambitious? When it was announced that he was returning to Doctor Who and that Disney were also coming on board to co-fund this new era, suddenly that prospect of new spin-offs started to feel a bit more real, because Disney have done that with other bits of IP that they've had. You know, look at Marvel, for instance, and Star Wars and things, all these shows, all these characters getting their own shows. It was hinted at in interviews that spin-offs were in development, they were in the works, and of course this sent fans crazy, thinking, oh my god, what's it going to be? Is it going to be a Paul McGann spin-off at long last? Is it going to be like a Torchwood revival? Is it going to be the Daleks getting their own show and the other monsters and aliens from Doctor Who? None of which have actually ended up happening, and of course as it happens as well, now that Disney have pulled out and are not co-funding Doctor Who anymore, this will be the only spin-off we get as part of the Disney Doctor Who era. And it was rumoured from quite an early stage as well that this show would be coming. You know, we had things like Bad Wolf, the production company, registering a company in the name of The War Between, and fans went, I wonder what this could be. There were also rumours in the tabloids about Unit and the Sea Devils both being involved in a spin-off, about like Unit and Kate Stewart getting their own show, with the Sea Devils somehow involved, and eyebrows were raised. It was kind of like, okay, you've got all these other obvious choices of things you could do, like Paul McGann or Joe Martin or whatever, but you're doing this? You're doing a Sea Devil spin-off? Okay. And as has since transpired, this show had actually been in Russell's mind for a very, very long time. He says that living, down where he does in Swansea on the Welsh coast, he would go down to the beach and look out to the sea and just think about the sea and what we've done to the oceans, in terms of pollution and climate change and stuff like that. And then his mind would wander onto the Sea Devils and being a Doctor Who fan, and the two things kind of converged together to become the concept or the premise for this show. Like, what if the Sea Devils woke up again in this age where we've polluted the oceans and they were really, really angry with us, basically, and fought back and declared war on the land? And I think as time has gone on, this premise has made a bit more sense and the logic has become a bit more apparent about why you would do this show. Like, I think the most obvious thing, really, is to have Kate Stewart there, to have Unit in their own show. That makes a lot of sense. Something in the vein of Torchwood as well, a bit more adults. With the Sea Devils, I think there were always concerns about how that was going to work, because although they are a very iconic Doctor Who monster, ultimately they've always kind of played second fiddle to the Silurians, really, or they've been like a splinter of the Silurians. The Silurians are the main idea, this race that existed before us on Earth, millions, billions of years ago. From a design perspective, they've never been that sophisticated either. In the 3 stories they've appeared in over the years, the Sea Devils, Warriors of the Deep, and then more recently Legend of the Sea Devils in the Jodie Whittaker era, each time they've been brought to life with these masks which look fantastic most of the time, but have no actual mouth movement in there, so it's very difficult for the performer inside to kind of, look like they're speaking or to emote properly. They do just look like aliens. And that seems to have been fixed for this show now that we've seen the redesign they've done for The War Between the Land and the Sea. They're kind of they're blue instead of brown or green. We have this leader or ambassador or spokesperson, Salt, who is much more humanoid and has more humanoid facial features, which just kind of humanises her and makes it easier for the actor playing her, Gugu, to emote and to give a more sophisticated performance. We've also had the expansion of the Sea Devil race as well into kind of the broader category of Aquakind, all of the races that live under the ocean, kind of led by the Sea Devils, who for the purposes of this show will be referred to as Homo Aqua, Salt apparently being something slightly different. She is a Homo Amphibia. And speaking of Salt, we have our two leads. You know, although Kate and Eunice are in this show, they are kind of a bit more of a background element or supporting element to our two lead characters, Barclay and Salt, played by Russell Tovey and Gugu Mbatha-Raw respectively, both of whom have appeared in Doctor Who before in different roles many years ago, both in 2007 as it happens. Russell as midshipman Alonzo Frame in Voyage of the Damned, Gugu as Martha Jones' sister Tish throughout Series 3. Again, there were some eyebrows raised there when their casting was announced, because people were kind of going, oh, so Alonzo Frame is back and Tish Jones. But no, that's not what this is. They're different characters. And I think it's quite a nice thing, actually, because it gives Doctor Who fans a reason to be invested in these two actors and these two characters, because they have seen them before. But they are two incredibly accomplished actors in their own right, and casual viewers probably won't have a clue about their Doctor Who connections from like nearly 20 years ago. There are other little connections for Doctor Who fans as well in the cast and the crew and the general story. We have Pete McTighe co-writing with Russell. Pete obviously wrote Lucky Day for this year's season, and Praxius and Kablam for the Jodie Whittaker era. Likewise, Dylan Holmes-Williams, who is directing the whole show, all 5 episodes, has previously directed for Doctor Who. He did 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble in Ncuti first season last year. We have other familiar faces in terms of the unit characters as well. Colonel Ibrahim and Shirley Bingham, both from the kind of current unit lineup on TV Doctor Who, from the Ncuti era, from the 60th anniversary specials. There's a very unusual returning character in the form of General Austin Pierce, a character from the 3rd series of Torchwood, Children of Earth. He was an American general in that show, part of the American Army, brought in to help deal with the 456 crisis, and apparently he's since become part of Unit, a very obscure character to bring back on the surface. But given that we've since learned that this show is going to be quite similar to Torchwood in many ways, and particularly to Children of Earth, in the sense that humanity is once again going to be negotiating with this species that's beyond their understanding, and they're going to be on the brink of war, I am actually starting to appreciate that a bit more. And we have seen some glimpses already of General Pierce in The War Between, in some of the trailers released for the show in recent days, where it's basically General Pierce kind of doing like a unit briefing about each of the characters, one about Kate, one about Barclay, one about Colonel Ibrahim, whatever, one about the Homo Aqua. That's been really cool to see, kind of getting into the world of the show, of this series. And there's been other stuff like that as well. There was a trailer where Kate was kind of giving this dire warning to the human race, where it's like, Homo Aqua has risen from the depths, and we are at war. This is pretty serious stuff, like be on your best behaviour kind of thing. In terms of the plot of The War Between, I think there are 2 things that have been promised, in addition to the kind of the general thing of humanity versus the Homo Aqua, the Aquakind. 2 love stories, one of which is going to be between Barclay and Salt, it would seem. We haven't actually seen any kind of indication of that yet, but it's been kind of hinted at in interviews and press materials and stuff. And equally, it seems like the romance between Kate and Colonel Ibrahim that's been hinted at in recent episodes of Doctor Who is finally going to come to the fore and be explored properly, which is something that really kind of came out of nowhere in the show itself. Like, when Colonel Ibrahim was first introduced in The Giggle, there wasn't like any interaction really between him and Kate, let alone any hints of romance or chemistry or whatever. But yeah, I guess that's kind of something we're just going to give a chance to and see how it develops. The show's score is being provided by acclaimed composer Lorne Balfe, who's done various TV and film work, and in a slightly unprecedented move for a Doctor Who show, the soundtrack has actually already been released. It was released 2 days before the first episode came out, so it's available to listen to now on streaming platforms with a physical release following, I think, in January, and it's brilliant. It has such a sense of scale to it. It's very kind of movie score-esque. There are already themes emerging there, like a theme for Barclay, which I believe is also the title theme for the show itself. There's a theme for the Aquakind too, and just generally you really get a sense that some stuff is going to go down in this series, in this show. I'm looking forward to seeing how the music pairs up with the visuals. The series is 5 episodes long, and each episode has its own title, so we have Homo Aqua, Plastic Apocalypse, The Deep, The Witch of the Waterfall, and The End of the War. And in terms of plot details, not a lot has actually been revealed, apart from the fact, that Barclay is going to end up being this ambassador for the human race, coming from humble origins as like a transport secretary, I think, in unit or something like that, kind of doing taxes, booking taxis, whatever. That's how he meets Salt. That's how they come face to face and develop a relationship between the two of them, representing humans and Aquakind. And I think as well at some point, Barclay does actually go down to the ocean floor, to the Aquakind's base, to meet them down there in their own natural habitats. But as well, a lot of the negotiations on land take place in this building called Empress Hall, where this conduit has been constructed in the special platform to allow the Aquakind to emerge from the oceans and exist on land. I think on the whole there is a lot to look forward to here. The trailers are looking fantastic, the early reviews are favourable. Yes, on paper it might not have been the first choice of spin-off for certain fans, but I think The War Between has developed into something really interesting, with something to say about the current state of the world, hence the inclusion of the Sea Devils. And I think ultimately it's just really exciting to have another Doctor Who television spin-off, because they don't come around very often. This is only the 4th one of the revived era, the 5th one overall, including K9 and Company. The first spin-off in nearly a decade as well, because Class was 9 years ago now, back in 2016. I think it has real promise and real potential to be a show in its own right, apart from Doctor Who, like a proper political thriller for our current age. So yeah, fingers crossed it delivers. But what are your feelings towards and predictions for The War Between the Land and the Sea? Be sure to let me know down in the comments below. Please also leave a like if you have enjoyed this video, and subscribe if you're new for more coverage of the show as it goes out. But otherwise, until the next one, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.